You know, Murkomen here is
I was only with
pretending that he has, you know, the mechanism of reading the body language.
Okay.
He has spoken here about many things that are just propaganda, you know.
Okay, help us correct this record.
You know, you cannot come and purport and say clearly that there was this promise done. He seems like he's the one who was seated in all the negotiation. He has talked about the seat and everything
It
else.
wasn't Ms. Mutula.
You know?
Who said?
No. So we can only know
Yeah.
from the both parties or the parties involved on what was agreed upon for them to either join Azimio or even go to UDA.
What was
and
agreed
I think
upon?
this show was not about Kalonzo Musyoka.
No.
This show was about running mate.
Yes.
He should tell us who their running
will
mate
tell
is.
you right now.
He's running to be he's going to be a governor. Maybe I don't know whether he has chosen his running mate or not. And I think it will add more value to us and to Kenyans when we really discuss issues on who should be a credible running mate or what should the presidential candidate, including when the governors, what kind of qualities should they look for in a running mate. I think then it's going to be a much more sober discussion and debate rather than just talking about one person and making it being a show about a personality or about Azimio, where we know even these guys in UDA, they have not even told us who their running mate is. And of course, especially people from our region, they have been kept guessing. Now we know also Musalia is still waiting. I am waiting also for that day when they also name their running mate. So let's not make it about an individual, but let's help Kenyans broadly. What can we look for in a running mate?
So help us understand, what is Azimio actually looking for in a running mate?
Azimio,
you're party to this discussion. At some point, you're rumored to be part of this conversation, consideration to be
not rumored.
deputy.
She is a deputy presidential candidate.
Yeah.
You're a deputy presidential candidate.
Yeah. I would thank God if I actually become one.
It's been announced on this show. But
you know, today Mutula is announcing many things, which is, by the way, a good prayer.
Have you been promised? Have you had those discussions?
No, I've not had this discussion with anyone. And for me, my commitment in Azimio is not because of what I'll get, but what we can deliver for Kenyans. And genuinely, anybody coming in, either to Azimio or any coalition, should come in to add value and to make sure that they help the coalition to achieve what they believe in, and for sure to make a win. It's not about individual. It's not about my own personal interest. Because when it goes about me, then the other person will also think about themselves. Then you're not thinking about Kenya and about Kenyans. So for me, I would say for running mate, whether it's in Azimio, and I'll talk about Azimio, we'll look for somebody, because we have our presidential candidate who is Raila Amolo Odinga. We'll look for somebody who complements him. Let's look at the gaps. What are the opinions saying? Who is a favorite, or who likes Raila? Where is he trailing behind? And how can we be able to win the people who are not with Raila for now? Whether it's region, whether it's numbers, whether it's gender, whether it's about the age, those things must be considered. And I think in that panel, we saw clearly that they said a few things that will qualify people to be running mates. But also, number two, when you talk about that panel, I think the panel is more senior than the deputy president when he went to meet his people. Veronica Maina, they were there. So when you talk about just people, I don't know who are, but the panel of those are eminent persons.
Okay.
And I think Kalonzo himself, that's why he said we need to be very genuine here. He has already given Senator to be in the panel. So that means it's part and parcel of that.
So you expect
when these people go to a funeral and start discussing about, you know, the funeral and how Kalonzo should have been treated, there are many people who actually were brought and up together. They were very close friends of the late president who never got a chance. So it's not about personal, you know, going to be seen on a national TV that you were there. But the fact, and I saw Kalonzo responding very maturely today, he said, but the fact that he was there, he was able to send off his friend. He was happy. He didn't have to speak. But these people, you know, they just trying to fan the fire here and trying to separate us. Okay. But we are strong together. And I will also tell my friend Mutula here, you know, we need to not to allow people from outside to come and divide us. We need to sit down. If there is an issue, it is not about Murkomen. You come and tell us how we should keep our house. First and foremost, he should tell us who is the running mate and come out here.
We'll circle back. We'll circle back to him.
Yes.
Mutula.
Let me say this, and not all of us could qualify to sit in the council where Sabina sits. She's what we easily call numero uno. You know, it's first among equals. Sitting in a very senior panel with very senior people to discuss very serious issues. And therefore, on my part and on the part of my party, and I say so because I sit as a vice chairman in charge of policy and communication, we and for the good of the party, and we are not here to appear as if we are quarreling. And I'm just advising them, and I'm happy I'm sitting outside looking in. I'm just telling him the perception created is wrong, because when my party leader says he will not apply, it simply means that at the part where they sat in the council, the question as to whether somebody is supposed to be vetted was not discussed. Because what are you vetting? What are you discussing? Now, it's important. This running mate question is so important because it's not only running mate for purposes of presidential candidates, it's running mate for purposes of other seats, including the one who is going to be my running mate. It is a very personal issue.
Correct.
It is so personal that this person who is your running mate will know very intimate things about you. Now, I must say that because Sabina and Murkomen were on one side at some point, they were pamoja. Now walikuwa pamoja. The fact is, they are the ones who have missed the concept of who a deputy presidential candidate is.
That's true.
A deputy presidential candidate is a very serious person, is a president in waiting. And how you treat that person is key, not for him as a person. But if the person has reached, let me tell you, it's going to take us a long time. Murkomen and I are famous for making noise, banging tables. But it will take us several election cycles to get to a position where you can be considered to be a deputy presidential candidate.
Yes.
So a person who has acquired the notoriety, public notoriety to become a deputy presidential candidate, has run as a vice president. And I'm talking about Kalonzo. Sabina Chege says it's not about Kalonzo. There's nobody else who is being discussed. There's nobody else who is trending except Kalonzo Musyoka. If there's another person, I need to know. But if
I'll tell you.
No, but the only person who is trending and who is being discussed is Kalonzo. Now, if you reach a level where you have become the last vice president was Kalonzo, and he has run twice with Raila, what would I have proposed if I was to be asked? And we have very famous sayings in my mother tongue, which I cannot repeat here, but I can translate to say, a person who cannot be advised by a young person doesn't have that person as their child. I would advise these people, and since you sit in the council, Sabina, the best way to do what would be so difficult is of the presidential candidate just making a phone call. Let them go and have a cup of tea. If not a cup of tea, something else that they can consume, and have this discussion. In fact,
that is the
if the presidential candidates were to sit in a room somewhere in a corner and decide that you are going to be a deputy presidential candidate and not you, and in that discussion, quietly as it is, and they come out and say, all of us have agreed this is the presidential candidate or the deputy presidential candidate, the people who support that presidential or deputy presidential candidate are bound to agree to the decision.
So it's about the treatment for you.
The same thing when Kalonzo sits in KICC and the president says Kalonzo has forfeited his opportunity to become a president in favor of Raila. You don't have an uproar. Nobody said anything, because we believed, the people who were in the party, that when they sat as wazes somewhere in a room, we don't know where they sat, they came to a general consensus. I'm talking about treatment, because if what my good friend Sabina is saying is going to pass, the question is, like you have seen judges being interviewed of the Supreme Court in US, are you going to have a public forum where everybody sees what you're saying and the questions you are asking? You see? Now, the caliber of the people who you are going to interview, first of all, as a professional, Senator Murkomen and I, both lawyers, cannot interview Kalonzo because they're senior counsel. In fact, as members of the bar, we have set up a panel of senior counsels. They sit on their own because they are peers.
Okay, I get.
So I am talking about a process, and my advice to the team is this: if you do not want Kalonzo, treat him well, because the outcome of that interview, whatever outcome, because I don't know how somebody would say, and I don't know what result would say, and I will pick the candidates. You say Peter Kenneth, Martha Karua from Central, will deliver more votes to Azimio than Kalonzo. If you made that finding out in the public, everybody would make their decision as to whether this verdict is correct or not. Okay. And therefore, I am simply pleading with the council, go and sit in a room, give us a deputy presidential candidate without subjecting these people to what appears as humiliation. Because